First up is Hamnet. This is a new film from Academy Award-winning director Chloé Zhao. It is based on the novel by Maggie O'Farrell, and the two of them adapted this into a screenplay together. It is about the life and impact of the Shakespeare family, in particular Hamnet Shakespeare, who was William Shakespeare's son. And if you are aware of William Shakespeare's personal life and all the history there, you know the implications of that. And if you are not, I encourage you to watch this movie to go on the emotional journey to find out what that entails. And I will give you, it's not a spoiler, but it is a warning. Every single person I talked to told me to bring tissues to this, and I was very glad I heeded their advice. So I am now going to pass on that advice to you. This is a very emotional film. I think it is one of the best films I have seen this year. It has stuck with me. It's haunting performances. So Jessie Buckley stars as Agnes Shakespeare, who Shakespeare's wife is also known as Anne Hathaway, though not in this. Paul Mescal is playing William Shakespeare. Emily Watson is playing his mother, Mary Shakespeare. You've got Joe Alwyn as Bartholomew Hathaway, who is Jessie's brother. You've also got Jacoby Jupe as Hamnet Shakespeare. You've got Noah Jupe as Hamlet, and you've got the Shakespeare daughters are played by Olivia Lins and Bodhi Ray Brethnock. And watching this film, so Chloé Zhao won her Oscar for a film called Nomadland, and Frances McDormand starred in it and won an Oscar for her performance in it. And I bring this up because as I was watching Hamnet, I just had this echo of a feeling that I had while watching Nomadland, and it was a hyper-specific scene. The scene in Nomadland is when Frances McDormand is pooping in a bucket, and I went, oh my god, Frances McDormand is going to win an Oscar for a performance that includes pooping in a bucket, and I was right. And I had a similar feeling during this film watching Jessie Buckley's performance. She does not poop in a bucket. However, there was just this one very visceral scene that I was like, oh my god, she is going to win an Oscar for this because she is so incredible in it. Playing this mother character, she's very in tune with nature, which is a big part of it, and has kind of, I wouldn't call them superstitions necessarily, but maybe like naturalistic beliefs. And so a lot of the film is like her getting caught up in, I want to say, almost prophecy. There's also, of course, this love story between Paul Mescal's character and Jessie's character, you know, as they're courting, as they fall in love, as they form this family. There's a whole brilliant but undiscovered artist factor for the William Shakespeare character because this follows before he is successful. There's all of this family drama that plays out. It's a beautifully shot film. It's a beautifully scored film. Like I said, the performances are moving and stirring and painful. And I actually have to give a particular shout out to the younger actors because a lot of this is reliant on their ability to perform. And, you know, if they had not been able to carry this film would have been a disaster, honestly. So I give credit across the board. I give credit to Chloé as a director and her ability to direct all of these things out of them. You know, I've not read the book, which is based on. Also, if you are unaware, and this is a little thing that pops up at the very beginning of the film, Hamnet and Hamlet were interchangeable at the time in England. So this should also give you an idea where this is heading if you are not aware of the book or of what Shakespeare's body of work included. But yeah, so even if you are not a fan of William Shakespeare or theater or etc., I still think this movie is absolutely worth seeing. You know, you don't have to know any of that stuff going into it. I don't know if it's helpful, but it definitely creates a sense of like tension if you are aware of what happened in Shakespeare's life. The only thing I will say is that towards the end of it, because at least I as an audience member am familiar with the play Hamlet and was aware of certain parallels and preceding things, I feel like a little bit of the tension for me and the discovery was taken out of it. But it's also like, well, it's Shakespeare. Like a lot of people are familiar, but then there are plenty of people who aren't familiar and are going to find even more resonance in that. But towards the very end of the movie, it's a little bit like the more you know about Shakespeare, the more you can kind of see things coming. So it's just a bit of a different journey there, but it's still so emotional. Like I said, bring tissues. There are just such phenomenal performances in this. It's a little inside baseball, but in terms of like awards, I thought actually Jessie Buckley's performance was the strongest out of this. I was like, I feel like she is a lock this year. I'm not, jinxing it or predicting it, etc. But so far, and I've seen most of the contenders this year, I think she is the most deserving of a Best Actress Oscar. Paul Mescal gives a very strong performance. It's just like a tougher field this year for him. He's up against things like one battle after another, etc. But I think Jessie's performance carries this film in such an important way, and it is beautiful and heartbreaking. And the other thing I will say about this film is that it is a little tough to recommend in some senses because I'm like, hey, you want to go bawl your eyes out? I have a film for you, but I do think this is a beautiful piece of art. It is absolutely worth your time and energy and efforts. I'm going to give this a 4.8 out of 5. The next film I have is called Left-Handed Girl. This comes from Shi Qingzhou. She directs it, she co-wrote it, she co-produced it, and it is I would call it a love letter to the night markets of Taipei and also a family drama. It stars Janelle Tsai as this mother of these young girls who moves them to central Taipei to open a stall at the night market. The daughters are played by Shi Yuanhua and Nina Yi, and I want you to remember the name Nina Yi because she is such a little superstar. She plays the youngest in the family, and she is just great. Similarly to what I was saying with Hamnet, this film is reliant on the ability of the young performers, and she is a young performer. She was 6 when she shot this. She's just so naturalistic, but also, hits all the beats she clearly needs to. She's clearly a really great talent. So Shi Qingzhou is a collaborator of Sean Baker, and Sean Baker is an Academy Award-winning director, writer, etc. He served as an editor and the co-writer and the co-producer on this one. So if you are familiar with Sean Baker's work, which means you're also familiar with Shi Qingzou's work because she has worked on most of his films, you're gonna get kind of that type of vibe out of this. I want you to realize this is its own thing, but I will say there are flavors of the Baker collaboration there. Not in a bad way, but people keep talking about the two of them together, and I want to be very clear, it's her project. But it's great to see, creatives supporting each other and willing to fulfill like different roles on each other's projects. So I will say for this film, the first two-thirds of it are a little bit rambling. It's a little more ambient. There is a plot to this film. I want to be very clear about that. You will go on a journey. It is very dramatic by the end. However, I think folks just need to kind of calibrate their expectations. It's not a super long movie either. It is sub 2 hours. I think it's about like 150 in that. I think that includes credits. But, I just really appreciated the vibrancy of the, setting and the way that everyone just feels like a really natural character. Shi Yuanhua is this kind of like petulant teenager character, and you get so frustrated at her. Intentionally, she does a great job of it. All of these people feel like people you could know, or especially if you're like me and you are actually half Taiwanese, you do know in some senses, maybe hopefully not as dramatic as them. But please trust me when I say stick with this one. Again, it's a little more vibes in the beginning, and I know that might be a different experience for a lot of audience members, but it will absolutely go places and build to something, and also just enjoy the ride along the way. It's beautiful, it's fun. The acting is really naturalistic. It's also out streaming on Netflix at this point, so you have no reason not to watch this film. I'm going to give this a 4.7 out of 5. The last film I have this week is called Fackham Hall. This is a kind of satire comedy that is skewering things like Downton Abbey. It's also making fun a little bit of things like Gosford Park, just anything with kind of elite British aristocracy and then also servants, etc. It's mostly poking fun at Downton Abbey. It is funny, as I was watching it, I was like, oh, if you needed a recap of Downton Abbey and like the major plot points, this honestly has most of them in a very short amount of time. It has a pretty all-star cast. It has Damian Lewis, Tom Felton, Thomasin McKenzie, Catherine Waterston. It's got Jimmy Carr, Sue Johnston, Tim McMullen, a bunch of other names. The challenge with this film, and I will be very transparent here, I watched this as a screen-a-link on my own, and because this is a comedy, it feels like maybe it would have benefited from seeing it in a group of people, because this came onto my radar because I'd heard nothing about this film, and then I saw a trailer for it in front of my screening of Spinal Tap 2, and, people were laughing, and I was like so excited. It looked very up my alley. I love a good satire. I also have a love for the things that it is skewering, and so I was like, cool, I am so in for this. However, watching it, and particularly watching it on my own, and having nothing to kind of, reverberate the comedy off of, it was a disappointing experience, which is such a bummer. Fackham Hall is to Downton Abbey as Scary Movie is to Scream. And yet, there still needed to be a plot and like a little bit of emotion that made sense. I think films like Scary Movie get away with it because it is so focused on the horror and the kind of mystery element of it. And I think for me, Fackham Hall did not spend enough time on actually creating a chemistry hook or a plot that we could tap into as an audience. It was more concerned about the puns, and I love a pun, and I love a visual gag. So I'm so bummed that I didn't end up loving this movie. I mostly just kind of got bored by it, and I also felt like the comedic timing, and maybe this is a cultural thing, but I do consume a lot of British stuff and British humor, so I'm not sure if I can blame this entirely, but it felt like the timing was very off on everything. Like, I wanted it to either be slower and just like make you sit in the awkward and the fun of a joke, or I needed things to be like a little faster and like bam, 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 but it kind of hits this middle ground where it feels like it's dragging. Also, some of the skewering felt a bit on the nose, especially for British humor. I wanted there to be almost a little more cleverness or a little more distance with some of it. And again, maybe this is just a me thing. I've seen that other folks have been enjoying the film, which is great. I want people to enjoy films. I found it disappointing. I found the plot just like so cookie cutter and also uninteresting and overcomplicated that I just ended up disengaging. And again, I know some of this is probably due to seeing it on my own and a screener, which is maybe not the experience you'll have, but it is kind of similar experience if you wait for it to come out on digital. And just because of the nature of this film, I'm like, yeah, you might just want to wait till this comes out on digital before giving it a try. I guess the nicest thing I will say about it is that it doesn't delve too much into potty humor, which I feel like a lot of these kind of parodies do, and can get really gross. But that's about it. Yeah, it's a bummer. When I saw the trailer, I was so excited for it, but it didn't translate to the feature of the film for me. I'm going to give this a 2.7 out of 5, and that might be being generous.